So by the end of this, you'll have a pretty good idea of who Buddha was.
Absolutely.
And you'll understand some of the key concepts of Buddhism.
Yes.
Like samsara, nirvana,
Yeah.
and this crazy idea of multiple Buddhas.
And we're going to try to make sense of that whole billions of lifetimes thing.
Yeah.
A lot of lifetimes.
Which is something I just...
It really challenges our typical Western way of thinking about time.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big number. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I have to admit, I was surprised to learn that Buddha isn't actually a name.
It's a title, actually. It means the awakened one.
Oh, okay.
And it comes from the Sanskrit root bud, which means to wake up. So it signifies this state of enlightenment.
So it's more like a description
Exactly.
of someone who has reached a certain level of understanding.
Precisely. And this awakening is all about breaking free from the cycle of suffering,
Right.
which Buddhism refers to as samsara.
Samsara, okay.
Think about those times when you felt stuck in a loop of negative thoughts,
Yeah.
habits.
I've been there.
That's like a little glimpse of samsara in action.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely relate to that feeling of being stuck. So how do we break free then?
That's where the Buddhist teachings come in.
Okay.
He showed us the path to liberation, which is known as nirvana. And that's a state of complete freedom from suffering.
So the Buddha that we're talking about,
Yes.
Siddhartha Gautama,
Siddhartha Gautama.
he was the one who kind of figured this all out.
Right.
But he wasn't the first Buddha, was he?
He was not.
Our sources mention this idea of multiple Buddhas throughout time.
Yes. This is where that Buddhist concept of cyclical time gets really interesting.
Yeah?
Instead of thinking of time as like a straight line,
Right.
think of it more as a constantly turning wheel.
Okay.
This opens up the possibility of countless Buddhas appearing
Wow.
throughout these vast cycles of time, each one rediscovering and teaching the same path to liberation.
So it's not like they're reincarnations of each other.
Not exactly.
Okay.
Each Buddha is a unique individual who achieves enlightenment,
Okay.
but they all tap into the same fundamental truth about reality.
So they're all on the same page in that sense?
Yeah, the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings,
Okay.
that's the through line.
That's a lot to wrap my head around.
Yeah, it's a big concept.
And then there's this whole idea
Yeah,
of the journey to becoming a Buddha taking billions of lifetimes.
billions.
Billions. How is that even possible?
This is the concept of the Bodhisattva path.
Okay.
A Bodhisattva is basically a being who's on the path to Buddhahood.
Okay.
Imagine being so compassionate that you choose to delay your own full enlightenment
Wow.
to help all beings achieve liberation.
So it's like putting others before yourself
Exactly.
on a cosmic scale.
Exactly.
Wow. That's incredible.
It is a really high level of selflessness.
So is that why the Jataka tales,
Jataka tales.
the stories of the Buddha's previous lives,
Yes,
are filled with all these acts of compassion and generosity?
absolutely. These tales illustrate the Bodhisattva ideal in action,
Okay.
showing how over countless lifetimes Siddhartha Gautama cultivated the qualities needed for enlightenment.
So it's not just like nice stories.
Right.
They're actually teaching something.
They're lessons in how to live a more compassionate and meaningful life.
Do you have a favorite Jataka tale?
Oh, so many good ones.
That really brings this idea to life.
One that always resonates with me is the story of the Monkey King,
Okay.
who sacrifices his own body to create a bridge
Wow.
so that his troop can escape danger.
Oh, wow.
It's such a powerful image of selfless compassion,
Yeah,
and it shows the lengths a bodhisattva will go to help others.
that's amazing. So after billions of lifetimes on this path, this bodhisattva is finally born as Siddhartha Gautama.
Right.
What do we know about his actual life?
Well, there are all these traditional narratives
Okay.
filled with auspicious signs and miraculous events.
Right.
But separating fact from embellishment is a real challenge for historians,
I can imagine.
especially because the earliest written accounts we have appear centuries after the Buddha's death.
It's like you're trying to put together a historical puzzle
Yeah.
with some pieces missing
Yes.
and others that might not quite fit.
That's a great way to put it.
But from what we can tell,
Yeah.
Siddhartha Gautama was likely born in the 5th century BCE
Right around there, yeah.
in Lumbini.
Which is present-day Nepal.
Okay,
He
so
belonged to the Shakya clan.
the traditional story tells us that he was raised as a prince.
Yes. Very sheltered life.
Right.
Shielded from the hardships of life.
Until he encountered the Forsytes,
The four sides, yes.
an old man,
An old man.
a sick person,
A sick person.
a corpse.
A corpse.
And an ascetic.
And an ascetic.
These really changed his worldview.
They shattered his sheltered worldview. Yeah. He was suddenly confronted with the reality of suffering.
Yeah.
The fragility of life.
It's like all of a sudden, all these truths.
Exactly.
Just right there in front of him.
Yeah, it was a pivotal moment for him.
And it made him renounce his princely life.
Yes. He decided to embark on a spiritual quest.
Wow.
To find a way out of suffering.
Imagine leaving behind your family.
Your possession.
Your possessions. Everything
you've ever known.
just to seek a deeper truth.
That's what he did.
That's pretty incredible.
It took incredible courage.
So where did this quest take him?
Well, his journey led him to study with various teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Exploring different spiritual practices.
So he was really searching.
He even practiced extreme asceticism.
Asceticism? What is that?
It's basically deliberately embracing hardship and self-denial.
Wow.
It was a common practice for spiritual seekers back then.
Okay.
They believed that by denying the body's needs, they could transcend the limitations of the physical world and attain spiritual liberation.
So it doesn't sound like Siddhartha actually found lasting peace through these methods.
Right.
Okay.
He realized that these extreme practices weren't leading to true liberation. It was just another form of clinging, this time to the idea of renunciation itself.
Okay. So he needed a different path.
Exactly. Yeah. One that addressed the root causes of suffering, not just its symptoms.
Okay. And that's what led him to the Bodhi tree.
Yes. Under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, he spent weeks meditating, confronting his inner demons. And he ultimately achieved a profound understanding of the nature of reality.
So that was the moment.
That was the moment of his awakening.
Of his awakening when he became the Buddha.
Yes, when he became the awakened one.
So he finally broke free from that cycle of suffering.
He did. From samsara.
From samsara.
He achieved nirvana.
Nirvana.
A state of complete liberation.
Wow.
Profound peace and understanding.
And after experiencing this awakening, he dedicated the rest of his life to teaching others.
He did for 45 years.
Wow.
He traveled throughout India,
really
sharing his insights, establishing the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns who followed his teachings.
It's amazing to think that the teachings that we're discussing today
have
been passed down for over 2,500 years.
2,500 years.
Impacting millions of lives across the globe.
It's really quite something.
It's pretty incredible.
It's a testament to the power and relevance of his message.
Yeah. But there's one thing I'm still kind of grappling with. Our sources mention that the Buddha isn't considered a god.
Right.
But rather a human being.
Yes.
But then there's all these stories
that
portray him with supernatural abilities.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile those two ideas?
That's a question a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the difference between the traditional narratives and a historical understanding of the Buddha.
Okay.
While the stories might embellish his life with miraculous elements.
Okay.
The core message remains the same.
Okay.
The Buddha was a human being.
Right.
Who, through his own efforts, achieved enlightenment.
Okay.
It's a really inspiring message because it suggests that this path is open to anyone.
Regardless of their background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Regardless of their circumstances.
So the supernatural elements are more like symbolic representations.
That's a great way to look at it.
Of the transformative power of his teachings.
Yes. They're meant to emphasize the potential that lies within each of us. The Buddha's life story, even with its mythical elements, is ultimately a story of human potential.
Okay.
The possibility of awakening to a deeper reality.
Yeah.
And a life free from suffering.
I can see how that would be a powerful and inspiring message, even thousands of years later.
Absolutely.
But I think we need a moment to let all this information sink in.
Yes. Let's pause here and give you a chance to reflect on what we've talked about.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll explore some of the core concepts of the Buddha's teachings.
Okay.
And how they've been interpreted and adapted throughout history.
Sounds good.
It's a fascinating journey.
I'm ready for it.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
All right. Welcome back. I hope you've had some time to digest everything.
Yeah, there's a lot to process.
We've covered a lot.
It's been a whirlwind.
It has.
But a fascinating one.
Definitely. Now it's time to delve into the heart of the Buddha's teachings.
I'm excited.
Those key ideas that have really resonated for centuries.
Yeah, it's one thing to hear about the Buddha's life story.
Right.
But it's another to really understand the concepts he taught.
Absolutely.
And our sources mention that there isn't just one definitive version of his life story.
Yeah, that's where the historical study of Buddhism gets really interesting.
Okay.
The earliest written records of the Buddha's life, they appear centuries after his death.
Wow.
So what we have are collections of teachings, stories, interpretations that have been passed down and evolved over time.
So it's like a game of telephone,
Kind of. Yeah.
where the story changes a little bit with
Exactly.
each retelling.
And those changes reflect the different ways Buddhism has been understood and practiced in various cultures and historical periods.
It makes you wonder how historians even determine what's historically accurate.
Right. It's like detective work,
Yeah.
sifting through all these sources and interpretations.
Is there anything that we can consider a more reliable source?
Well, the Pali Canon is considered the most authoritative collection
Right.
of early Buddhist scriptures.
The Pali Canon.
Yes. It's believed to contain the most authentic record of the Buddhist teachings.
So even though it was written down later,
Right.
it's still considered a valuable resource.
Absolutely. It gives us a window into those core teachings that were initially transmitted orally.
For generations.
Yes, before being written down.
So it seems like the Buddha's life story
Right.
isn't just about the literal events.
It's about the evolution
Okay.
of his teachings and their impact.
Over time.
Exactly. It's a living tradition.
It's not static.
Not at all. It's constantly evolving.
And that evolution speaks to the enduring power of his message
Absolutely. Its ability to adapt and resonate.
across different cultures
Different cultures.
and historical periods.
Exactly. But let's move beyond the historical context for a moment
Okay.
and explore the teachings themselves.
Okay.
The core of the Buddha's message lies in the Four Noble Truths.
The Four Noble Truths.
Yes. They offer a framework for understanding the nature of suffering
Okay.
and the path to liberation.
It sounds almost like a prescription for a better life.
You could say that the first noble truth acknowledges that life inevitably involves suffering. It's not saying life is all bad,
Right.
but rather that suffering is an inherent part of the human experience.
Well, that's certainly relatable.
Right. Life throws us curveballs.
Yeah, it does.
The second noble truth identifies the cause of that suffering.
Okay.
Craving and attachment.
Maybe in that chair.
We cling to the things we desire, and we push away the things we dislike.
Right.
And this creates a constant state of dissatisfaction
I can see that.
and unease.
It's like we're always chasing after something.
Exactly.
Never fully content.
And never fully content with what we have.
Right. But the Buddha didn't just leave us with this bleak picture of suffering, did he?
No, he didn't. The third noble truth states that suffering can cease.
Ah, okay, so there's hope.
There is hope.
Okay.
It's possible to achieve a state of liberation.
Nirvana.
Nirvana, exactly.
So how do we get there?
And that's where the fourth noble truth comes in.
Okay.
It lays out the path to liberation.
Okay. Which is known as the Eightfold Path.
The Eightfold Path.
It's a set of guidelines
Okay.
for cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline.
So it's not just like a quick fix.
No, it's a gradual process of transformation,
Okay.
way of life.
It sounds like a very holistic approach to living a more fulfilling life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Buddhism emphasizes that true happiness and liberation,
Okay.
they come from understanding ourselves,
Mm.
cultivating compassion for ourselves and others,
Okay.
and living in alignment with ethical principles.
So it's not just about believing in something. It's
Not-
about actually putting it into practice
It's about embodying these principles
in our daily lives.
in our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
It's a way of being.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how all these teachings connect.
It all ties together.
The Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path,
Right.
the idea of overcoming suffering and achieving liberation.
It's all interconnected.
They're all pieces of the same puzzle.
You got it. It's a complex and interconnected system
Hmm.
of thought and practice.
And it ultimately aims to guide us toward a more awakened and compassionate way of living.
That's the goal.
It's pretty profound when you think about it.
It is.
It's no wonder the Buddha's teachings have endured for so long.
Yeah, they really have stood the test of time.
But with so many interpretations
Right.
and schools of Buddhism,
Yeah.
is there one right way to practice?
That's a great question, and it leads us into another fascinating aspect of Buddhism.
Okay.
Over the centuries, Buddhism has branched out
Okay.
into various schools and traditions.
So it's not like a monolithic religion
Not at all.
with one set of rigid doctrines.
There's a lot of diversity,
Okay.
while all Buddhist traditions share those core beliefs.
Like the Four Noble Truths,
The Four Noble Truths.
the Eightfold Path.
Yes.
There's a lot of variety.
There's a remarkable diversity in how these teachings are interpreted and practiced.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Definitely not.
That's actually really refreshing. It allows for individual exploration
Yeah.
and personal understanding.
So there's room for personal interpretation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Buddha himself encouraged his followers to question, to investigate,
To think for themselves.
to find their own path to liberation.
He didn't want people to blindly follow his teaching.
Exactly. He wanted them to understand.
To really internalize it.
Yes.
So it's not about dogma
It's not about blind faith.
or blind faith.
It's about personal exploration and discovery.
It's about finding what resonates with you
Exactly.
on your own spiritual journey.
On your own path.
This is really opening my eyes
Good. I'm glad.
to the depth and complexity of Buddhism.
It is a rich tradition.
It's so much more than I initially realized.
It really is. And we've only scratched the surface.
I know. I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
We could. There's so much more to explore.
Yeah, like the different meditation techniques.
The philosophical schools.
How art.
The rich artistic traditions.
Right. It's fascinating.
It is. But for now, let's pause.
Okay.
Let all this new information settle in.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
It really is.
Take your time, reflect on what we've discussed,
Okay.
and see what sparks your curiosity.
I will.
And when we come back,
Yes.
we'll explore some of the challenges and opportunities that Buddhism offers
In today's world.
in the modern world.
Okay.
It's a fascinating conversation waiting to happen.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, we're back. And this exploration of Buddhism has been quite the journey.
It has been.
It's amazing how these teachings from thousands of years ago still feel so relevant today.
I know. It's fascinating how the Buddha's emphasis on, understanding suffering, cultivating compassion, seeking inner peace,
Right.
it just transcends time and culture.
Yeah.
It speaks to the core of what it means to be human.
It's like he tapped into something universal,
He did.
something that people relate to no matter what their background is or what they believe.
Absolutely. And what's even more remarkable is that the Buddha never claimed to have all the answers.
Right.
He offered a path, a way of approaching life's challenges with wisdom and compassion.
It's an invitation to explore our own minds,
Exactly.
discover the potential for change within ourselves.
That's the beauty of it.
That's what I find so appealing about Buddhism. It's not about forcing beliefs on anyone.
Right.
It's about empowering individuals
To find their own path.
to find their own path to liberation.
The liberation.
Yeah, it feels very open
It is.
and inclusive.
Very much so.
At the beginning of all of this, I had kind of a vague idea of what Buddhism was all about.
Yeah.
But now I see it in a totally different light.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's not just about chanting or meditating.
It's a whole way of life.
It's a philosophy,
Yes.
a way of engaging with the world
It's a way of being.
that fosters wisdom, compassion, inner
Yes.
peace.
It encourages us to be more mindful, more aware of our thoughts and actions, more connected to the present moment.
It's about waking up
Exactly.
to the richness of experience.
To all of it, the joys, the
Yeah.
sorrows.
Yeah, all of it.
Finding a way to live with greater awareness
And equanimity.
and equanimity.
Yes. Makes me wonder what the Buddha would say about our world today,
About the modern world.
with all of its complexities and challenges.
I think he would probably emphasize the importance of inner peace, amidst all the chaos.
Right. Because there is a lot of external chaos
There is a lot
in the world.
finding balance
Yeah.
in a world that's constantly pulling us in different directions.
He might even say something about technology,
Oh, absolutely.
because it offers so many benefits.
There's many benefits.
But it can also be a source of distraction
And suffering,
Yeah.
if we're not careful.
if we're not mindful of how we use it.
Right.
It's like we need to find a way to integrate these ancient teachings
To bridge the gap.
into our modern lives,
Exactly.
to use them as tools for navigating the complexities of today.
The Buddha's teachings offer timeless wisdom that can help us live more skillfully,
Very compassionately.
more compassionately, regardless of our circumstances,
Whether we're dealing with stress or anxiety,
relationship issues,
right, or just the everyday pressures.
the pressures of daily life,
They can provide a framework
for understanding our own minds
and cultivating a path
towards peace and well-being.
towards a better way of being.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've covered a lot
We have.
in this exploration.
We've gone deep
From the Buddha's life story
to the core concepts of Buddhism.
to its relevance in the modern world.
It's been a rich conversation.
It has. And I hope you're walking away with a deeper understanding
Yes.
of who the Buddha was,
And the essence of his teachings,
the essence of his teaching
and how they continue to offer guidance and inspiration.
thousands of years later.
Thousands of years later.
I know I am.
Me too.
And for you listening, I hope you are too. What stood out to you the most?
Yeah. What sparked your curiosity?
Maybe you're interested in learning more.
About the different schools of Buddhism.
Right. Or maybe the idea of meditation.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness really caught your attention.
It's a fascinating practice.
Whatever it is, I encourage you to keep exploring.
Yes.
The Buddha's message is a gift.
It is.
An invitation to awaken.
To a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
To a better way of being in the world.
Exactly.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
There's always more to discover.
There's a whole world of wisdom and practice waiting out there.
A whole world.
So on that note, we'll wrap up our exploration of the Buddha.
Until next time.
Until next time, keep seeking.
Keep questioning.
And keep waking up.
To the wonders of this world.
To the wonders of this world.